Yo, 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 welcome to a very special Happy New Year edition of Wings, Beers, and Tears. Cheers, gentlemen. Happy New Year. It is officially 2020. We are in the throes of NFL playoff time. College football playoff was very exciting this past weekend. The championship game is a week away, and we have breaking Redskins news, so let's just get right into it tonight. This is Wings, Beers, and Tears, your DMV Sports podcast. I am Todd, joined, as always, by Jeremy.
How's everybody doing? Happy New Year, boys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So let's set the table and get right into it. So this past weekend was the final regular season weekend for the NFL. With that comes what is deemed Black Monday. So on the Monday following the last day, the bottom few teams in the league tend to purge their coaching staffs and kind of start from scratch. And our Washington Redskins were at the top of that list. Shockingly, I'm going to say they actually were at the forefront of Black Monday in that they purged Jay Gruden midseason. Bill Callahan was simply a placeholder. And with that came the rumors and then the ultimate hiring of one Ron Rivera.
They didn't even really fire Callahan. They're just like, yep, we're just going to stop paying him and he turns into stapler and all that good stuff.
Exactly.
They basically made no announcement of it.
None whatsoever. And I'm sure it had zero affect from him because nothing affects him. So Bill Callahan, thank you for your service. You made this roster more organized. You clearly have a knack for being the most boring guy in the NFL. But with that comes a little bit of stability. And so we move into the Ron Rivera era. Say that 3 times fast, Jerry. So today they ushered in this new era with the press conference.
Now brown cow.
Now brown cow. So I will get to that in a second, but definitely some Ron Burgundy crossover here. But so here is where we currently stand with the Washington Redskins. 5 teams had coaching vacancies as of Monday morning. Only one of them has filled them to date. That is the Redskins. Hired Ron Rivera, who immediately announced that he got his defensive coordinator of choice, who I think is a pretty damn good pick. Jeremy, what do you think?
Might even be more important than Rivera himself.
I completely agree.
Like the Rivera hire, Del Rio's just as if not more important. That guy just does damage on defense.
It's funny. Usually the head coach comes after an executive is hired, right? So here, let's start everything off, and I'm going to throw this to Jerry. Which is better, the hiring of Rivera, a very established, competent NFL head coach, or the fact that Bruce Allen isn't around? Because his ass got fired. Thank Christ, the Wicked Witch is dead.
I am so happy Bruce Allen's gone.
Oh, it's amazing. I actually felt better when they said he was officially fired.
Right. There was some talk he was going to stay on for some.
I had a little hop in my step the day they said he was fired. That's terrible.
Well, here's the thing.
But accurate.
If Bruce Allen is fired, but nothing changes, then we're just going to get another Bruce Allen, because he was simply a mouthpiece for Dan Snyder. He was taking bullets for Dan Snyder.
Sure.
It's not like this guy was running rogue and making decisions on his own. He comes off as a douche. And
it's because he is a douche.
Yeah, and an arrogant asshole.
And he's an arrogant asshole.
He's just a mouthpiece for the owner. And the owner's still
right.
I thought they made a mistake, because the only way the Redskins are ever going to be successful is if you can cut Dan Snyder out of the equation and you can hire somebody to run your team president, GM, whatever, that will tell him to go away and not get to interfere. And if you can do that, and you can have football people making football decisions rather than marketing decisions, then you have a chance. They didn't do that.
No. So that brings it back. So it's a net positive that Bruce Allen is gone.
Well, I mean, that's the trend now. The trend now in Buffalo is you hired your coach and then you hire the GM.
Yeah, Buffalo, right. San Fran did it
with Shanahan.
Another playoff team did it too. I'm not sure which.
Yep.
And so I think Cleveland's going to do that.
I think you're right.
So it is the trend. But in this aspect, with this owner, I would have rather seen it a different way. I would have rather them hire somebody who's a badass, who comes in and then picks the coach.
Sure. As far as the coaching hire goes, then, are you pleased with it? Do you think he's
fine?
Yeah.
I mean, he's fine. He's a good man, a good coach. He's a good disciplinarian. I think he'll bring in toughness, which Jay Gruden didn't have.
Yeah.
He'll bring in organization, which Jay Gruden didn't have. And I think he brought Jack Del Rio, which Jay Gruden couldn't bring.
Boom.
I mean, we had Greg Minuski when
Well, and that came down to that basically there were 2 or 3 guys that kind of wanted that job, the DC job last year. They're like, well, I'm in this interview and the DC's in the room, so I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Right.
So I
Right.
can't come here. I have no idea what's going on here.
Right. And I think Del Rio, and we can get into sort of his stats and history if you want to, but I mean, he's solid. Rivera's solid. You're going to get a
Absolutely.
lot tougher.
Yep.
They're switching to the 4-3, which
Thank God.
brings a lot of. I mean, what do you do with some of your guys? But
You mean some of the guys that were the worst defense in the NFL? Who fucking cares?
Well, I mean,
they need to purge some of those
what are you going
assholes.
to do with Ioannidis? Where does he play? Tackle or end? Where does Payne play? Tackle
Right.
or end?
Right.
Where does Allen play? Tackle or end? Settle's a tackle. What do you do with Kerrigan? Where does Sweat go?
Kerrigan, bye. Love you, but bye-bye.
Right.
Get on out of here.
I mean, I'm in favor of it. First of all, your base defense is run about 15. No, maybe not. Maybe about 30% of the time. The rest of the time, packages. So
Yep.
it doesn't matter if you're really a 4-3 or 3-4. But how can you generate pressure on the quarterback? I think is the biggest thing. And Del Rio has always has a reputation of being innovative.
Yeah. So Del Rio's defenses are. I read a stat. His last 10 defensive coordinator years, they've been top 10, 8 out of those 10 years.
Yeah, and I think like top 5 in yards against
Yeah.
or something like that.
I mean-
Either top 5 in yards against or points against every one of those years.
And it's not like he's been at like, the Jets every year, like the who's who of like good, solid, old school defenses. I mean, he'll take over a team that was 20th and he'll get him to 7th.
Yep.
Guy knows what the fuck he's
I
doing.
think he took over a few that were in the Redskins position.
I
like
think you're right.
bottom 4 into top 5.
Yeah,
He's done that.
No, I think you're right. And like Jerry said, Rivera, I think the word stability comes to mind with him. There's nothing flashy there, but all 48 guys that suit up on Sunday are going to be really tough. And if they're not going to play, and they're not going to be on the squad the next week. I mean, he is old school in that regard, but I don't think. But at the same time, he appears to be a player's coach, if we can use that term as well. So he's a rare breed in that he has the disciplinary side of it, but the players that play for him say that those were the best years of their lives. So
he would include himself in that group. It's not just about the players or the coaches. It's everybody together.
Right.
And he's going to be that disciplinarian within that group in that context.
So I don't know how this story ends, because with the Redskins there's so much drama that always seems to occur. So who knows what road we're going to go down. But as far as bringing in some stability, something consistent, they have done that with the hire of Rivera, the purging of Bruce Allen. That's like a 2-point pickup, a 2-point swing, and getting Del Rio on board right away means Rivera's not fucking around.
Yep.
He's assembling a staff that's going to work hard from the top down.
And Jerry made a bunch of good points, but I don't want to disagree with one of them, but I want to guess.
I think you should vehemently get him fired up.
A pile on, or maybe something that wasn't quite addressed. Yeah, you want to bring in some, badass, I can't even think of the right personnel guy, but that guy's not going to work for Snyder right now because he's going to say, "Fuck you! I'm not working for you."
Right.
I don't think you're going to find that guy. I think Rivera is going to basically be the last man. The buck stops with him. He just said what he said in the interview today. I know we haven't really brought it up yet, but that everything will be by committee, and any final decision that we need made by someone else will be made by Snyder. I think what he means by that.
That's where you will lose me.
But I think what he means by that is we're not going to let any decision get to Snyder. We will figure it out, and we will tell him what we are doing. We will never get to a point where we have to ask him for his advice.
I hope you're right. So we'll get into the press conference here in just a minute. Jerry is spot on. He's been spot on all year. Regardless of what you do, getting rid of Allen, we said that was the first domino that had to fall. It fell. You had to get somebody in here who was competent. You got Rivera. So we've already checked 2 boxes. Snyder is the ultimate problem, right?
Yep,
he is the puppet master, but he can't go anywhere.
Right.
He's not going to go anywhere. We can't force him to.
Right.
And as much as it would be great for somebody to send down an Urban Meyer clone and have him walk in and go, "Fuck you, get on your yacht and leave me alone for 2 years," it's simply not going to happen.
Right.
So the only way for this team to be successful is for a guy who has a strong coaching personality. The buck stops with him. He takes ownership. Who says, "Give me these guys and these parts and pieces that I need," and he can go out and will them to 10 or 11 wins. Mm-hmm. That's the only way this team's going to be successful. It's almost going to be despite Snyder, not because of him, and that's the reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when he said in his press conference and maybe post press conference interviews that it's a collaborative decision, it's a committee decision, and when they have disagreements and
good call. It was the post interview.
They need tiebreakers. Basically, they're going to bring in Snyder, which made
that.
everybody flip out.
Yep.
So the worst thing he could have said was that. I think it's because he just didn't understand. He doesn't understand what this fan base really goes through in terms of dance, because he doesn't give a shit about Washington.
Right. He doesn't get the vitriol for him. He sees the businessman that wrote up a beautiful contract and wined and dined.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dan Snyder, to his credit, at the press conference today, said we have a head coach. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, he may have been drunk, but the smartest thing he said was, we have a head coach and it's his team, and it's, he makes a decision. Basically the buck ends with him.
Yep.
And that's what he needed to say. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he needed to say to appease everybody.
He did.
And what Ron Rivera didn't get was the memo where he needs to say that too.
Right.
Because that's what everybody wants to hear.
Right.
One is Bruce Snyder's gone, or Dan Snyder. No, Bruce Allen. Jesus Christ. Bruce Allen is gone.
Jerry is so happy.
Jerry just used the app where he put like somebody's head on somebody else's body and just morphed them all together.
The first thing this fan base wants to hear is Bruce Allen's gone. The second thing is I'm making the decision. The buck stops with me. I'm not consulting Dan Snyder. That's what you need to say, even if it's not true, because that's what people want to hear.
Right.
So he didn't get the memo on that. The second,
or there was some fine print at the bottom of the contract that said, "You technically have all the power. Can you please tell the people I'm still relevant?"
No, I mean I don't think Dan Snyder wants that being said.
But I think he was just being deferential, and I really believe that he will not let any decisions get to Snyder.
So the second thing that bothers me is that he hasn't hired Kevin O'Connell, which I don't understand why. And part of that is because he also, I would have preferred him to say, Dwayne Haskins is our guy. Dwayne Haskins is our guy. We're going to roll with him. I've seen enough. I've met him. And he didn't. He said, well, we're gonna wait and see.
Because that's that old school mentality.
Fuck that. That's so stupid.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm saying I just lauded his old school stability mentality, but that is one of the downsides is it's the good old boy network, and they're not going to commit to anybody.
Can you imagine the clusterfuck that will happen if Alex Smith is allowed to be on this team? Can you imagine the clusterfuck that will happen?
But he is.
You need to cut his ass immediately, and you need to go. Yes, you can.
Cap will kill you.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. You're paying him either way. The cap hits the same. If he plays, he gets paid. And
I think if you cut him now, you
got to get rid of his ass because you are going to stunt Dwayne Haskins. That's the worst thing you can do.
He's not going to be ready, so it doesn't really matter.
The worst thing you can do for this franchise is to make Dwayne Haskins think he is not the guy going forward, and you're not treating him as the guy going forward. That's the worst thing for this organization. And he's falling into this bullshit. Oh, we haven't decided our good. We'll play the best. Fuck that shit, dude. You hire Kevin O'Connell. You tell Dwayne Haskins he's the guy, and you let him fucking have an offseason with confidence. Otherwise, you're going to fucking stunt his growth, and next year's going to suck. Mark my fucking words. Mark my fucking words, Ron Rivera. You fucked the press conference up in that regard. This bullshit about, we're going to play the best guy ever. What the fuck? We're going to have Colt McCoy again? Jesus Christ, morons.
Jerry,
doesn't anybody learn?
If I had known that rant was coming, I would have asked for you to invite the clerk from the circuit court that you're prepping for to come in and go ahead and just take that all down on a ledger. That's fucking brilliant.
You bring Alex Smith in the room. You are setting him back.
He's been in the room. He was in the room all year.
But he's not playing.
He won't be next year. He's not going to be ready.
He wants to.
He wants to, but he's not going to be ready.
You got to cut that shit off right now. That's my guy. If Alex,
they damn near had to cut off his leg. I mean,
seriously. I don't. You guys are. If you don't think I'm right, you're wrong.
I do think you're right.
I don't think you're right.
I believe that you have to give a young quarterback tools around them. and you got to give them the keys to the car if you're going to trust them to drive eventually. It's what the Ravens ended up doing with Jackson when they decided, fuck it, we're all in on Lamar. We're going to build an offense around you, and here you go. They're doing it in Arizona right now with Kyler Murray. And they're going, you know what? We know you're going to throw 20 picks, but you're also probably going to throw 30 touches.
And
you're going to run.
Daniel Jones.
They're doing it with Daniel Jones. I do agree with that mentality. And that was the only reservation I had when they hired Rivera is I go, this guy's fucking awesome. His preparation, second to none. The respect that he commands from veterans and rookies alike is just off the charts good. It's somebody the Redskins really haven't had since the very first iteration of Gibbs. Seriously.
Let me just clarify. If that happens, you're 100% right. I just don't think that's actually going to happen.
You mean Alex Smith getting in the way of stunning his growth?
Yes.
I think eventually Haskins emerges as the starter for a number of reasons. Number one, Smith really only has one leg.
Right.
Number two, Colt McCoy's never going to be healthy. Number three, Case Keenum sucks, and he's a
Well,
very average backup veteran.
Apparently, McCoy wants out of here. I mean, he didn't even come back to town. He stayed in Texas. He wants no part of this.
Was he ever in
I
town?
don't blame him.
No.
No, I don't blame him either.
Yeah, he's gone. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
no,
we're
he
about.
can latch on somewhere as a training camp guy who emerges for somebody that needs with the attrition that happens with quarterbacks.
Borderline 2-3 ends up as a backup after
Exactly right.
somebody got hurt. Yeah.
Keenum can do the same thing. I'm not too concerned. Haskins will emerge, barring a catastrophic injury.
Right. I mean, I think.
But I get what you're saying.
I
PR
would've-
wise,
Yeah, if that happens, you're 100%.
I
right.
would have been. I would have been better if he'd have just said, "Let's." I don't know personnel right now. I've been here 48 hours. I've met Dwayne. Seems like a nice kid. Hopefully, we can work. He needs to work hard in the offseason, and we'll go from there.
So the only thing that made me feel a little more positive, and why I didn't fly off the handle quite as much as you just did in that rant, was he did say, "Remember, I was in Carolina. We had the number 1 overall pick. We took him, and we made a game plan for him, and we executed it." And he goes, "My goal here is to get in, see our personnel, and make a game plan and execute it." So
Yeah, agreed.
From all accounts, Haskins started playing better when Kevin O'Connell was in full charge of the play calling, game planning, and everything.
I agree with you. I think
When
retaining
Callahan got out of
O'Connell
the
is
way.
going to be key for Haskins' growth.
So I was disappointed that wasn't announced today. I don't know what he's waiting for. Maybe Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to work for him. I don't know.
Well, I think that may be part of it. It's not that he doesn't want to. It's just I think they want to talk and make sure they're on the same page before either one of them commits to anything. I mean, O'Connell's under
Didn't they
contract.
do that today?
I mean, I don't think they're done. Is my guess. I don't think it's not a half an hour thing. But
Talked to him for fucking 3 hours.
maybe they're doing that right now. I don't know. They're blowing each other. I don't know.
I certainly hope they retain O'Connell because
He got Del Rio pretty quick.
he did. I do agree with you that retaining O'Connell is almost as important as getting Del Rio on board as quickly as he did, because then you have an established OC with a pedigree, albeit a very young one, but it appears that especially the younger players really like his style. There's a reason some of the younger guys really flourished on this team in their offense.
And most importantly, I mean, Dwayne does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Like Jerry just said, the comfort level when O'Connell could get him and grab his ear and usher him in, the difference in Haskins was immense. And then again, McLaurin, Sims, if Geis comes back and can play, I mean, you've got some serious young talent.
Hey, check this out. In 2002, when Jack Del Rio was hired in Carolina, they drafted Julius Peppers. Mm-hmm. In 2012, when he was hired as DC in Denver, they drafted Von Miller. Now he's the DC in Washington, and who do they have the capability and potential of drafting?
Mr. Chase Young.
Chase fucking Young. Dude, they have to get him.
I see all these morons saying he didn't do anything against fucking Clemson or whatever.
They only beat the living shit out of Lawrence in the first quarter because they doubled Young
they
the whole
were
game.
double
I would
heavy and
only
chipping
take him 99 times out of 100, probably. The one being a trade down.
I mean, well, that's where I'm going. But when you look at his sacks per game ratio, he is up there.
Or if you just look at his sack, but
I think.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think like he's up there with Clowney. Everybody else he pwns in terms of sacks versus in amount of games he played,
Gotcha.
including Bosa.
Well,
And
you
who
nailed
else
it
is on that list.
You nailed it weeks ago before we even knew exactly what pick we were going to get. But with the number 2 pick is actually ideal in this draft because
It's perfect.
it's absolutely perfect because Burrow is going to go number 1. So Cincinnati will take Burrow unless somebody gives them
they're taking him.
They have to, right? Unless somebody sells the mansion to them, they're taking Burrow, which means
I think so, yeah.
Which means that's off the board. You already potentially have your young quarterback that you want to develop. See our previous conversation on Haskins. Young is the most impactful player right away on the board, and you called it, Jerry. When you're picking in the first round, especially top 15, now number 2, that motherfucker has to be drafted and has to start week 1.
Impact.
Start week 1 and have an impact. And the edge rushing position is so impactful in the NFL. And now we have a DC that knows what he's doing and a head coach that knows what he's doing.
and you basically go into the season, again with your new 4-3 with Sweat and Young as your
Edge rushers.
your edge rushers. Period.
But imagine
Built
this.
for that.
But the only caveat is it. Caveat. Yeah, is this.
Caveat
Yeah,
emptor, pal.
How now brown cow? How now brown cow?
Let's say Burrow goes. Tua declares on Monday that he's going to the draft. His medicals are not that bad in terms of.
That's good. He can
no,
barely
I mean
throw, but
his
that's not-
his surgery's gone, done. It's recovering good. His recovery's 8 months. He's not going to start as a rookie, but he's going to sit for maybe half a year, but he'll be ready to go. Miami wants Tua. They're worried about other people wanting Tua. Miami has the 5th pick, 25th pick, and 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks.
I like where you're going with this, actually.
So let's say they do the due diligence on Chase Young, and for whatever reason, bad fit, they're just getting bad vibes. Maybe I don't know. For what something happens. Now they're in a position though where they can say, "Hey, Miami or San Diego, or is anybody willing to trade the farm?"
So
For
in that
this.
case, so let's take Miami as a real world example here. So you're the Skins at number 2. Miami goes. They get on their hands and knees and go, "Oh my God, we need Tua so badly.
We need Tua so badly. We're going to give
you 5
we're gonna-
and 25.
5, 25,
And a
and
second
a
rounder.
second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Right.
that's what the ransom needs to be for that.
Right, but and that's according to the trade chart value
That's
chart's
probably
about
not even enough.
that's about 1,000. So that's what you need.
Okay.
Right? So
Okay.
you need 5, 25, and 60 to get to 2. Right? Let's say they do that. And for whatever reason, they just didn't think Chase. I mean, a good player, really good player, has put but he has some flaws. Or he's not worth it. They drop down to 5. Now they get the corner from Ohio State, who was fucking awesome.
That guy is
stud.
tremendous.
Or Judy.
Or Judy, or
right.
the linebacker for Clemson, who's amazing, and
He
they
is
need an
amazing.
outside linebacker.
He's amazing.
right?
Yeah.
Then you can go down to 25 and get some other Alabama wide receiver,
Or how about a tackle?
or a tight end, or a tackle, or an edge rusher who's the guy from Penn State or something. And now you actually have a second round pick.
Right.
So if you draft right, you can get 3 starters versus 1 starter, and you can only do that because you're in such a good position.
Yeah.
As much as I want Young, if they can draft one, get 3 starters, you have to do
You
that.
have to do it. Yeah, no,
It's
I
not even
agree
a
with
question.
you. I agree
But
with you. But again, it takes the right dance partner on the right time. You got to hold the cards close to the vest.
But if you go to the combine, you do all the workouts, right? You see him, you meet him, and goddamn, this dude is the next freaking Julius Peppers.
You got to take him.
He's going to give me 12 sacks right off
yeah.
the bat.
I
What did
almost
what
think
did,
that's good. Go ahead.
what did Nick
Go ahead,
Bosa have this year? How many sacks did he have?
Double digits.
Yeah.
I thought he was right around 10 or 11.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think Chase Young's going to have the impact that Bosa has, I think you have to take him.
If he can get double digit sacks, that's more valuable than any other position other than quarterback.
Yeah. And I almost think that it's not going to be a decision. He will show himself to be that good
That's what I think too.
or not, and it'll be easy.
Well, I think he's going to show himself to be a badass.
Yeah. And I agree. And that way, then you don't even have a question because, if there is a question, to me, there's no question that someone will want the second pick. That's not a question either.
Oh, of
So
course.
it's just up to
Of
you
course.
what you're going to do.
Right.
Sweat, by all accounts, had a down year. Some of that was because he was a 3-4 and they were dropping him, and that's what he can't do.
Okay.
And they let him rush the passer in the last game. He had 2 sacks. So if you let him play the 4-3 defensive end and just go get the quarterback,
Right.
you have him and Chase Young on the sides collapsing with all that depth. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you could rotate Payne, Ioannidis, Allen, those guys settle, and you can keep them fresh in the fourth quarter, along with the 2 edge guys.
The best teams have 4 guys in the middle.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, you see other teams just running these big ass linemen off the whole game, and they're all impactful.
You
And you
have-
go, no shit, you
Two
know?
of those guys are a little more pass rush guys, so they'll maybe come in on third down or whatever
Sure,
it is.
sure.
But you got 4 guys that can you split it.
Yep.
It's just like having more than 1 good D pair in hockey. You can split that workload.
So obviously we're excited because they're moving in the right direction. You know,
Bruce Allen got fucking fired.
the fact that Bruce Allen got fired, I would be just
Or
as
Bruce
excited
Snyder,
today.
or Dan Allen or whatever. the fuck his name is.
Dan Allen, fuck that guy. No, I mean, I agree with you. It was a great start. It had to be done for just to cleanse the soul.
Well, and we said nothing is going to fucking matter until Allen's gone.
Right.
So, now he's gone. So,
I mean, if you brought Ron Rivera in here and Bruce Allen was still your team president, I'd be like,
oh,
well,
I'd be furious. I'm interested to see what Rivera does with pure actions because he seems to be again, nothing really seems to fluster him putting this coaching staff and roster together. He seems very confident in himself. And people were poo-pooing the press conference today, and they were saying, "Oh, Snyder's an idiot," and Rivera said he's going to defer to Snyder, and this isn't what I wanted to hear.
That's what I said.
Okay, we've seen press conferences that have blown us away, and then we've gone 3-14 again, or 3-13, or whatever.
3-14. That's really impressive. Actually,
If anybody could do it, the fucking Redskins could do it. That's for Christ's sake.
Not to die. Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, if RAP possibly Jerry, but other than that, no. I know we are so overreactive because this organization has been so bad for so long. Again, Allen's gone. One of the things I was listening to as part of the post, press conference interviews was apparently, and again, it's Dan Snyder, so who the hell knows? Apparently, he really took a look at other organizations and sort of reflected and saw what he's been doing wrong. This might only last a week that he'll actually change, but I think he actually learned from all these outside sources. I don't know if we'll ever figure out who they are. Really, I think some people told him because they don't work for him, "You suck. What the hell are you doing?" And he listened. We'll see what the impact is, but Jerry's back from the dead, so go ahead, Jerry.
This is a good start.
It is a good start.
But we felt the same way with Schottenheimer. We felt the same way with Shanahan.
Yep.
And Correct. It all fell apart when Snyder was so impatient, and in Schottenheimer's, he won his last 8 games and still got fired, but he wasn't winning sexy enough to sell, so he got fired. And then Shanahan, the owner, sided with the fucking rookie.
Yep.
And cut the balls off Shanahan.
Yep.
And whereas if he would just let him coach, our quarterback right now would be Kirk Cousins, and our coach would be Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
And we'd be fucking pretty decent. So until that proves not to happen, I just think that on week 8, when we're not selling, when the Redskins the stadium is half full,
right,
and not selling any fucking merchandise, I think Dan Snyder's going to get pissed. And when Ron Rivera pulls Haskins aside and said, "You're benched," and he runs to Dan Snyder and said, "Your boy and I went to Bullis, and this is bullshit. This is not what you promised me." That's when the rubber's going to meet the road.
I could not agree with you more. You nailed it. It's a good start. But, lest we be like Lucy and Charlie, or, Charlie Brown and have Lucy take the ball away again. We know how this whole story is going to end with Dan Snyder wielding his power. The question is, does he, like Jeremy just said, everybody grows a little bit, right? Even Jerry Jones has grown over the years, maybe into a bigger asshole, but at least
he not understand that he's a fucking terrible, like one of the worst owners in sports.
I don't know. Again, maybe he has the magic mirror that says that he's the fairest of them all. I have no idea.
Well, he's always going to see that. But if he can understand that maybe he is great in a lot of ways, bullshit, but if he can think that, that's fine. But there are certain things he's been doing wrong. And if he can correct those, he'll be the greatest ever. He brought the team back from nothing. Well, yeah, he put him there, but he brought him back too.
Yeah, it's classic Ernie Grunfeld.
Yeah,
draft shitty, but then get rid of the shitty players.
And more shitty players.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, I have said I don't understand what he doesn't understand. If you win in this town with this team, you don't have to market.
Dude,
everybody's they come to you.
The callers after the press conference today, every other caller, HTTR. I'm renewing my tickets again. I couldn't be more excited. Like, he actually got the right hire in terms of a legit guy.
But we do this every time he hires somebody.
Yeah,
we do.
But he is a marketing machine. To your point, if Rivera actually comes through on the field, gives us some stability.
Oh my God!
And they start.
People will be giving Ron Rivera their firstborn.
Absolutely.
If he goes 12-4.
So in his interview with Chad Dukes, he brought up Joe Gibbs twice, and he said, as he was mulling over the various offers, he goes, "I actually went to Joe's house and we sat down and we talked."
Right, he's down in Charlotte,
and did all that kind of stuff or whatever. And I mean, immediately, like, there was 50,000 Redskins fans out there that perked up and they were like, "Oh my God, he likes Joe Gibbs. He's going to be the greatest coach ever." Like, I mean, that's the way this fan base is. You nailed it. All they got to do is come out and win the first 2 games, and I mean, it's going to be hail to the Redskins, and
So, Jeremy, what do you want to see in the front office? If you had to pick, what would you like to say?
we need someone who will have enough of an FU attitude to Snyder to carry through with my prior point about they will not let decisions go to him. Someone who will work with Rivera to make the decision. So again, nothing ever goes to Snyder.
So I agree with you, but in order for that to happen, it's probably someone we've never heard of, and it's probably somebody that's worked with Rivera in the past. I think Rivera has to hire that guy.
There's a guy. I think there was a guy in Carolina that he worked with. That maybe he was like Gettleman's, underling or whatever when he was there.
Okay.
That I think was also fired earlier this year. That they're talking about bringing in.
Okay.
And I mean, my guess is he's going to talk to Schaefer and see if they get along, and if they do, Schaefer may get a new contract, because I guess his contract's up in May. So there's obviously no guarantee.
But isn't Schaefer more of a cap guy?
Team president guy.
Definitely.
Okay, so
he's basically Bruce Allen Light.
Right. So he's the one that helps to draft the contracts, do the capologist work, make sure everything works. But if they bring player A and player B and they say who should we sign based on acumen and ability, I don't think he really has a say in that. He's kind of like, I don't fucking care.
He doesn't have that knowledge.
Right.
I don't think.
They got 3 years guaranteed at this cap hit, and I can put it into this box. So that role though is very important in a cap league. Now, getting to the cap for the first time in a long time, the Skins have money to spend.
They do.
In the past, they have not spent it wisely. So now we get to the player personnel part, like Jerry just said. I would love it to be Rivera and his right-hand man, and they basically are the heads of the snake making the personnel decisions. I have no problem with a coach having a ton of say in player personnel in this day's NFL. But you need to have somebody that's all they fucking do.
I think Eric Schaefer's history. He seems like, from all accounts, John Keim and JP Pinley say the guy is salt of the earth.
Right.
Really good at his job. But he's been part of the past, and he's a Dan Snyder guy.
Right.
And I don't know if he's the guy who can stand up to Dan Snyder if he needs to.
I don't think
he's one of the boys. So.
Right.
I'll bring up our guy, BMAC from the Caps. He basically, when he got interviewed, said, "You've been doing it wrong, and if you don't like it, I'll go find another job. If you agree with me, I'm your man." I don't know where Schaefer falls on that line. If he learned what not to do, he might be the right guy.
That's a decent point, because when McClellan was hired, everybody went, "Oh, it's McPhee light," and the reality was he loved McPhee and all that McPhee did right, but he had ideas to do a lot of shit differently.
Exactly.
And got us over the top.
So I think there needs to be two hires. One is the GM, a traditional GM,
an actual player personnel guy.
Actual player personnel
Yes,
guy.
agreed.
And
Dorsey's available from Cleveland.
I think we have the guy we need.
He is.
Kyle Smith
Okay.
is a stud.
Okay.
It's AJ Smith's son, and he's been with the Redskins for a couple of years, and he's been the one handling the drafts. And by all accounts, when they have allowed him to do it, he had and make final say. He is very intelligent, and I think he's the guy who can do the. Apparently everybody raves about how hard he works, how diligent the boards are set up. He's got good command of the scouts. I think he's a player. He's groomed in it. His dad's A.J. Smith, so this is all he's done. He's been groomed for it.
Right.
I don't think he's the guy you want to be the conduit between Dan Snyder and Armageddon.
Right.
You want somebody who can say, "Listen, Dan, we got this. There's disagreement right now, but stay away." And we're going to work this out.
We might have that guy just in Rivera. So if he can have two other, again, that's where I'm saying I don't think he's doing this by himself by any means. I think the committee part was right, but that's what these guys we're talking about now. Nothing to do with Snyder at all.
I would fire Doug Williams.
Yeah, as painful as that is, I think
Doug
he didn't really have a defined role. He had a title, but he didn't really have a role.
Ask him, he doesn't know.
Honestly, I think Doug Williams is one of the leakers. Washington Redskins have a bad problem of people leaking shit out. They do.
So you think they should just clean house in the front?
Well, that's what I said.
Front office, yeah.
Fire everybody.
Right.
There was some thought that when this Schaefer thing came out and he was actually working and they thought he was fired, J.P. Findley thought that it was a way for the Redskins to see who was leaking. They only told a few people. So they can see who was providing leaks so they can get rid of them.
Interesting.
And
They're putting the dye in the water looking for the crack.
Pretty much.
Strangely quiet. I mean, Doug Williams has been strangely quiet. Nobody's talking about him. It's like he's the forgotten man. And I don't know if it's they're letting him go gracefully without, a lot of uproar. I mean, you can't fire a legend like that and a beloved player.
Well, you can see there.
Grace. Maybe you let him resign. Maybe you let him, but you got to get him out of there, man. Because
or you do what we were worried they were going to do with Allen and move him into alumni director or some shit.
Right.
He wouldn't hurt anybody there. Where Allen could still hurt.
I have heard from different people. Now I don't fucking know, but I have heard from different people that when Doug feels disrespected, he will start talking. And that's what you can't have. They got to stop these leaks.
Right.
They got to stop leaks, man, because that shit with Eric Schaefer, if he's fired and no one told him, but it was still leaked out, and that shit with Scott McLuhan leaking out, you got to stop that stuff, man. I mean, that just makes you look terrible.
Well, and again, it starts with Snyder and it comes down from there. They don't really do anything right. For a team that prides itself on marketing and branding and printing money, they do a really shitty job of putting themselves up on a pedestal. Today's press conference is a prime example. Dan Snyder comes out and says, "Happy Thanksgiving" to start. What the fuck was that all about?
That's
I mean, seriously. So this is where I said,
I hope it was just an inside joke that we don't get and we don't care about.
I hope it was on a teleprompter like Ron Burgundy style. Go fuck yourself, San Diego. That's
That would have been funny.
That's what I was kind of hoping. But so that happens, and it's like, well, that's fucking bizarre. And then apparently Rivera was supposed to have a jersey, and he referenced it.
Couldn't find it,
and they
until
couldn't
later.
find it. So he's like, yeah, and then here's this jersey with my name on it, and there's no jersey
They
anywhere.
didn't find it at some point. 'Cause I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, so they found it later, but it's just the little shit like that. And again, I'm not going to jump all over it, but it is systematic with the Washington Redskins that they are unable to put together a beginning to end finished product, whether it be a press conference, whether it be a hire, whether it be rolling out like a new identity with the front office. They just do things backwards.
Well, look how excited we are, at least relatively excited, about something so insignificant in terms of actually on the field at this point.
That's
We're
how
far away
that
from
is
the first
how
game
low
of
the
game.
Titanic has sunk.
Exactly.
And
And it's gross. I don't know. What to say.
we're like, cool, we can still see part of the boat. It's not sinking anymore. This is amazing.
Sinking yet.
So I just looked on Twitter, and apparently Kevin O'Connell are still trying to work things out with Rivera. So they have met, they've spoken, and they're still working things out. Nobody knows what that means.
Right. Well, I mean, let's hope for the best there.
It could be back towards your rant. Maybe O'Connell wants to name Haskins the guy, and Rivera's not ready to do that. Who knows?
Well, you're right. That's a possibility.
Speculation on speculation, I realize.
One thing I did find encouraging is that Rivera wants to talk to Trent Williams. Now, I don't know if that's encouraging is the right word, because I still want Trent Williams traded, because I think he's a malcontent piece of shit.
I know what I want to say to him is what he said, or something along those lines.
I think he's a malcontent piece of shit, and I want to get a first-round pick for him, so fuck him. But you know what?
Marcus Johansson scored. Look at
He's
that.
also... Is that guy still alive? He's also, a top 10 offensive tackle. That you can't find.
And he's technically under contract, right?
Oh, yeah, he's under. But he'll want more money, and but when he doesn't get his way, he's a fucking He's a team cancer, and he'll bring everybody with him, including that other fat ass Morgan Moses. If he's not holding somebody, I'm just kidding, Morgan. My name's Jeremy.
Yeah. So I again wrapping this all up in a nice little tight package. They did exactly what had to be done. They got rid of Allen. They hired a legitimate coach. He immediately started with a top name DC and Jack Del Rio. So the parts are beginning to come into place for us to have some sort of optimism, hopefully, going into the offseason and everything else. But, this league is very humbling because the top can topple like that, and the bottom feeder teams can rise from the ashes the following year. I don't know that the Skins have the pedigree to rise from the ashes, but if they were to do so, it's probably with a guy like Rivera and Del Rio and stability. So
They have the pedigree to be a bowl of shit.
They do.
Haven't
They
used
do.
that one in a while. So
No, we haven't. But it's going to be quite the eventful offseason. I hope it's more eventful with parsing free agent talk, draft talk, positive.
Did you guys happen to see the Baylor game last night?
Parts of it, yeah.
No, I just saw the quarterback get drilled late.
The coach for Baylor, who everybody's in love
Matt
with,
Rule?
Matt Rule, looks like he was auditioning for Game of Thrones. I don't know what the fuck he's wearing.
That was a hell of an outfit.
Did you see
Yes.
that shit?
I didn't see the outfit.
It's like a green hoodie with, I swear, like this 1800s or 1500s even, like cloak on it. And it's
It looked like a vest, but I'm not sure if it was a vest. It was very bizarre.
the funniest fuck. I said, what
And the
fuck?
game was indoors. Like I didn't really get that either.
It's like, is he Tyrion cousin? I have no idea. What the
So
fuck is
his
he dressed
name,
like?
right? So his name's getting thrown out there for a bunch of the
big
other
time.
vacancies, right?
Yes.
So I was expecting this guy on
He
the
turned
sideline.
down Cleveland's interview.
He turned
I
down
believe?
Cleveland, yeah. So,
And the Giants.
so I was expecting to see, your typical top-notch college coach, a la, Dabo, or somebody in the even Cliff Kingsbury when he came out of Texas Tech, like somebody of that mold that looks the part, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's probably at your local Applebee's at the end of the bar ordering like his eighth Miller Lite, and give me some more
All-you-can-eat rib tips.
Yeah, give me some more bottomless, boneless wings over here. He just looks like
Actually, sounds pretty good. Right?
he looks damn near homeless.
Look at this. Look at his freaking outfit.
Yeah, that guy does not look like the guy who's the most sought after college coach
He
right
was
now.
wearing it. I was like, is that
He looks like an X-ray tech.
is that a sweatshirt with a hoodie with like this, Game of Thrones kilt over it? It's for, I don't even know what they're called.
So before we move on from the Redskins briefly here, because this is basically your Redskins extravaganza to enter the new year.
Football, sorry.
But before we move off the Redskins for a second, this ties it in a little bit. One of the biggest advantages of getting Rivera when they did is you're sitting here now with 4 teams with coaching vacancies, and one of the top, veteran NFL coaches is off the board now. So, so our coaching vacancies currently are the Giants, the Browns, and there's 2 more. Not the Jets. The Jets somehow retained Gase, didn't they?
And the Jags retained Maroon.
yes.
Oh God, there's some bad coaches.
Honestly,
Well, all I know
Bad
is the
prep by
Giants.
me, I'm not sure
I
either.
think the Giants and the Browns, personnel wise, where they are with cap room and everything, I thought those were 2 more attractive jobs than the Redskins, in my opinion. If I was a head coach, I would probably look at Barkley and Jones and the Giants, and go, that's probably a little bit
That's
more
pretty
enticing.
cool. People
And
don't want to work in New York.
they don't want.
New York's tough. Can be
And
tough.
Cleveland kind of has the
Stigma, almost as bad as
it's
the
almost like
Redskins.
they built the stadium over like an Indian burial ground, and they'll just never be good again. They've got something going on there.
But
Cursed,
I thought Cleveland would be
but
the best opportunity.
I thought
but
so,
don't-
too.
Who wants to work with Obi?
Yeah, I think he's going to be gone. Sounds like he's already telling other teams, take me, take
And
me.
Jimmy Haslam is of the same ilk as Dan Snyder, so you have that problem too.
That's true.
He's meddling.
Yeah.
I mean the worst job is Dallas because
Oh, yeah, I forgot the Cowboys,
your
yeah.
G- well, he's not. It's not official.
fired
It's going to
yet,
be
yeah.
though.
But that's the worst job because you have to deal with Jerry Jones. He's the guy,
And when they pay Dak, not if, when they pay Dak, they've got no fucking money.
right? I mean, they had all these studs this year, and they were 7-8 or 8-8 or whatever they were.
They were 7-8. The Skins were 3-14. Between the 2 of them, they played 32 games.
I mean, when you beat the Skins, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, fuck. So, who knows how it's going to play out with the Skins. I like the start, but it is just that. And with every week, we'll get more and more, info on, how they're going to round out the, the coaching staff and who's going to come back.
I'm
and,
hoping O'Connell gets hired. I'm hoping that
You want him to keep Minuski? You want him to keep him on staff?
I'm hoping O'Connell, stays.
He should be on the strength and conditioning staff at least. He looks
Seriously.
like he should anyway.
It looks like he should be reading like Silent Night or something at Christmas time. He's always got those reading glasses on. Looks like an old man. Anyway, I hope they keep O'Connell. And then by training camp, I hope they have seen enough of Haskins and he's trained hard in the offseason and he's been doing that where they say, all right, you're the guy. That's it.
I
hope
do
so.
think that's what's going to
I hope
happen.
so.
Even by the first OTAs, they'll say, we gave Haskins homework. He, scored 150 out of 100 on his exam, and he's the guy.
Yeah, and he
before
looks,
anything
he looks
gets started
great,
yet.
and he's got command of everything. He's
Yep.
our guy.
That would be ideal.
Because now you can, even if he's not great, you at least, that's my guy.
Yep.
And he
Well,
knows
again, you
that's
have
his guy.
identity and direction at that point.
And he is taking accountability. This is my freaking team. I don't need to look over my shoulder anymore.
Right.
I'm going to put my extra time in it.
And in small sample size, Haskins has flourished every time he's given more responsibility.
Yeah.
So
And let's face it, playing quarterback in the NFL, zero guarantees how they're going to turn out, right?
Yeah.
Because you had guys with pedigree like Jameis Winston, who is just a career blah quarterback. He shows games where you go, oh my God, 350 and 3 touches, and then $175 and 5 picks.
I mean,
and this is like 7-8 years running now.
Haskins ended the year with 7 picks and 7 touchdowns, but let's not forget 4 of them were in one game where he
Yes.
was just thrown in without any sort of prep.
Yep.
Right.
During and no game plan for him, and they threw him to the wolves.
And let's also just to be a little bit more, I don't know positive is the right word, but open-minded about it in terms of maybe they're also thinking we can't just have Haskins. He knows he lost Newton this year. He saw what happened to the Redskins last year when Smith got hurt. You've got to have a competent backup too.
But not
So-
not Alex Smith. He's not. First of all, he's
I
not a backup.
Really, I don't
I
think
agree.
he's going to be ready. I just really don't. It could still be Keenum, though I doubt it. I think they probably have somebody else they'll bring in. But I mean, again, look what happened to them this year. Newton didn't play. Kyle Allen had a couple games and they lost 8 in a row.
They got to get somebody. But I'm just saying when Alex Smith said, "I'm not looking for front office stuff. I'm looking to play and I'm looking to get
Yeah.
ready," I was like, "Uh-oh,
Yeah.
that's not."
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm
I don't love hearing that, but at the same
And
time,
he's got a lot of money on the table, so he can't retire.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, like Jeremy said, I mean, physically speaking, I just don't think it's going to be a consideration because he's not even going to be
I
close.
just don't think he's going to be ready.
You're probably. It might be the guy Shazier.
Yeah,
Right? He
right,
keeps
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
"I'm coming back. I'm
Right,
coming
right.
back," and no one wants to say you're not coming back.
Well,
Sure.
hell, you pup him or whatever it is. He doesn't. Maybe he is ready to be the backup week 8. But at that point, Haskins is the starter.
Well, do you think that Keenum has shown you enough to be the backup?
I'd be fine
I'm a
with
Keenum guy.
I'd be fine with Keenum as a
especially
backup.
As the backup, so I'd be fine with that personally.
I mean, if O'Connell liked him and he was a good team guy,
Sure.
I don't know if he'd like it because he basically has no chance in camp. But
hey,
I
he's
would
getting
do it.
paid.
Yeah,
He's getting paid. It's not like that guy's got a ton of offers.
No, that's true.
I would be, especially if O'Connell is here and Rivera's down. I'd be very happy if Keenum was the backup.
I mean, you got to get somebody who is comfortable with the role and who's not going to, try to backstab people and sort of understands his role. But you need a good guy, but you also need a good quarterback.
You do.
'Cause he's going to play. The backup's going to play.
And as we're talking here, I do think that O'Connell hire is becoming increasingly more important to your point, Jerry, because what they're going to roll out as a system is going to determine the personnel that they want to run that system, right? So if they have a system in place and they think that Haskins is the guy to run it and they're going to have him develop within that system, the backup also needs to be able to seamlessly come in. And we laughed when RG3 was told he was going to be the backup in Baltimore. But again, they made a system around Lamar and they got RG3, who's a very similar mold. And look what they did to Pittsburgh in the last game of the
Who
year.
still can't throw. But
But he put up 28 points on Pittsburgh and beat their number ones. They had to win that game to have a chance.
The
Number
worst
3
thing,
quarterback, but
the worst thing for Haskins
Unfortunately.
if he has rotating offensive coordinators with different systems and he's got to learn different shit.
Completely agree.
The best thing for him is just give him a system,
Stability.
and
Give him stability.
And I don't know if he went to Ron Rivera and said, "I like O'Connell." I mean, he tweeted, "Keep my boy" or whatever he tweeted. I can't.
Sure.
So from all accounts, he's close with O'Connell and likes the system. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, there better be a damn good reason you're changing it.
I think that
Yeah.
I
Not
think,
just because you want your other boy here.
I think
Right.
it's more about O'Connell, because O'Connell was probably somewhat, heir apparent. He could have been a head coach here.
Yeah.
And now we know that's not going to happen, not anytime
Right,
soon.
you're right. So maybe
it's more about him and his situation, I think, than anything else.
Yeah,
that's something I didn't think about.
No,
Maybe
you bring
he
up a
don't
good
want me
point.
here.
Yeah. Maybe they sit down and they have the perfect intentions in mind, and maybe he just goes, "Thanks, but I."
Hey man, coach, I'm only going to be here for another year. I'm
That's
gonna
right.
Try to get a head coaching
That's right.
job and
If you're as good as they say, and you're going to be here for the next 5 or 6 years,
and I only want to stay here if you're going to let me call my plays,
Right.
and not dictate to me.
And Rivera might not want to have a lame duck OC.
Right.
A lame duck
Yeah,
OC.
True. Well, we shall see.
I'm hoping they can. I mean,
I hope he stays.
I
I
can't
like him a lot.
imagine Kevin O'Connell having head coaching opportunities this year.
I don't think so either. But again, the NFL loves their young, talented, innovative guys, right? So his name is now out there.
Oh, well, I mean,
And-
next year, if Dwayne Haskins progresses and has a good year, he's going to be a hot candidate.
Yeah, he might be. He might be.
It's just the way it is.
It is, and that's the way the league works, and that's not a bad thing because as we've seen, these coaching retreads they're kind of painful sometimes.
But is North Turner coming here? That
was your call, right?
Well, he was Rivera's guy in Carolina.
Yeah.
But someone said he just wants to flat out retire. Yeah.
And Wilkes was his guy too, and he didn't come along. So
I think it's because they had Jack
they had Del Rio and
Yeah,
stuff.
they had Del Rio.
When Del Rio was in Carolina, he was calling the defense. When Wilkes was there, I'm not sure. I know last year Rivera was calling the defense because the defensive coordinator there he didn't trust.
Gotcha.
For whatever reason. So
Gotcha.
I mean, he's got his guy. I mean, he wanted Del Rio. I think he could have had Wilkes or Del Rio.
Well, Del Rio was just to me. Jeremy nailed it when we started here. That's almost as important as the Rivera hire.
That's the guy. If they could have hired with Jay Gruden, they'd been much better.
Yeah, we might still be here with Jay Gruden. Who knows?
Words can't express how poor of a job he did this year, and I don't blame him. I'm not begrudging. I mean, I'm begrudging him, but he just didn't want to be here. He put no effort into it, and he just did terrible.
He didn't care. I don't think he cared.
Nope.
At least not. I mean, not much.
Yeah.
Not about the right things.
I mean,
anyway.
they looked awful.
The fact that Bill Callahan, is basically prehistoric with his game plan and came in and made us look like a viable,
started practicing.
But he beat Miami and Detroit.
I'm with you 100%. It was
Carolina who lost 8 games in a row.
It was awful football. I'm not saying it was anything better. What I'm saying is that's how low the bar was set with when Gruden left. Yeah. I mean,
I just even think they looked better in the first week or two than they did any time during the season in terms of actual potential. Up on Philly in the first half, stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right.
But then it just fell apart.
Well, I mean,
but you can't coach if you lose the room, and nobody.
One final
final
thought of optimism from me
It'll be your first one of the evening.
One thing Rivera said is, I'm looking forward to having my second stint because coaches who have their second teams generally do well because I know all my mistakes and I know, and that makes a lot of sense. So you do get stale other than having Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback of all time, and coaches get stale. They run their course.
Sure.
And I think the shelf life of a coach is about 6-7 years. And then you need somebody else.
And you get 6 or 7 because you had some success in there. Right. So you've got to be successful to even get that far. But I'm with you 100%, these lots of young, talented coaches coming up. So these older veteran coaches, 4, 5, 6 years is probably their shelf life.
So the consensus is, please keep Dan Snyder away from personnel decisions.
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
Don't let him in.
I sincerely hope that Jeremy's interpretation is correct in that he said it just to be nice. Because the owner was in the room.
And deferential and showing respect.
Deferential, exactly the right word.
Deferential is the word, absolutely.
But he's not in the room for the interviews.
Nope.
But he can hear them.
Yep.
I mean, I'd love to, if everybody's sitting there and everybody's like, well, who you guys think we should draft? And like Chase Young. Everybody's in agreement and you just do it. That's great.
That'd be great. And then Dan Snyder runs in on draft day and throws down Jerry Jeudy at the last second without trading back for him.
I mean, what happens if you have 5 guys or 6 guys in the room, 3 want to trade back, 3 want to draft Chase Young, and now you want Dan fucking Snyder to make the call?
But again, that's my main point is those 6 guys are in the room say, we don't care if we disagree a little bit. We're coming up with an answer because we do not want to go to him for an answer.
Right.
That's my point. It's 4-2.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to tell. I mean, he's going to tell them what he wants. I mean, he's gonna. You can't. The problem is you just can't stop him. He's like, hey, Ron, what are we looking at?
Right.
Chase Young's from here. He can sell a lot of tickets. We get him and Haskins. They're both local kids. It sells a lot of tickets.
Local boys, Ohio State boys. Add in the McLaurin Ohio State connection. You got you got some decent young talent.
My only fire Rivera.
Yeah, right. So again, it's a start, but thank God that we could have some positive skins talk to end the season.
Oh yeah,
and that they moved quickly on the hire, even if it's a little bit ass backwards. It's not unprecedented with the way the league's going. So I'm going to hold judgment on the player personnel people until those dominoes fall.
Let's see how the draft goes. And free agency,
and let's see who's in place going into the draft.
Does free agency start before the draft, or is that after the draft?
Before, I believe.
Because
it's after the combine, before the draft.
Right, you got to know who the fuck you're getting.
Yeah. Was it like late February, early March, I think, is when free agency opens up.
I want to say it's right in the middle of the month somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's a week before where you can start talking, and then you can start signing a week later. because it's when the new league year starts.
In March.
Which I think, so like mid-March, end of March, whatever
Yep.
it is. Combine is mid to late Feb, and then
Yeah, they have some money to work with. We'll see what they target. They need
You gonna
major defensive back help.
You gonna take a week off, head down to the combine this year,
I
give them your
wish.
notes.
They need wide receivers. They need tackles. They need complete secondary.
Yeah, I mean they have so many needs. That's what I was saying. If
Well,
they can just
you
load up on a shit ton of picks,
But if you can get a pass rush, then that makes your average cornerback look pretty good.
well, because what it does is it takes that base defense and it kind of makes it null and void, like you said, because everything else is packages. And if you can get home to the quarterback, makes your secondary a whole lot more.
I wonder if Rivera will want to keep Josh Norman.
that was what I was just going to bring
So
up.
he
The elephant
they
in the
asked him
room,
about
yeah.
that today.
Elephant in the room is Trent Williams. The bull in the room is Josh Norman. So they could both. Now, we thought, no way they were going to be back with Bruce here. I think Trent, I would say it's honestly 50-50. Norman, probably not quite that high.
Yeah, because you know why? He can't fucking run.
That doesn't
He
help.
can't run and cover.
But he actually might want to play here. He might want to play here for league minimum. He might not care.
I doubt that.
Or close to it.
You don't go from being that ego to
Well, if nobody else wants him, I mean, you never know.
Oh, somebody will sign him.
Somebody will sign
People
him.
will sign him. It's just not for a couple $1,000,000.
Oh well, we shall see.
We'll shall see, man.
We shall see. And then next week, we will bring back our variety
we'll
of
talk
DMV
about-
sports
This
topics.
was a one-off.
Yeah,
it was
by the
necessary.
way,
This was
Yeah.
honestly, this is kind of a dud of a week because the Caps didn't play very often, and when they did, they didn't play very
weren't
well.
I don't like the Caps anymore. I'm picking a new team. I haven't decided which one yet.
Terps basketball only had one game due to the holiday break, and they're right where we thought they would be. So I think next week we'll have a lot more info on the Caps going as we get closer to the All-Star game in the midway point. We'll see what the Terps are made of as
And
they
West
start.
Virginia beat Ohio State.
Yes, they did.
Huggins says, "Go fuck yourself,
And then I
Jim."
think Huggins vomited on the floor afterwards. He was so drunk. But
If he coached at Maryland, top fives every year.
Yeah, we'd make the grade 8, like you
I
said.
disagree with that.
Top fives every year.
So we'll have our
Final five every year.
our other local teams to talk about. And next week at this time, we will know who the Ravens' opponent is in their matchup in the AFC
Is there a
semifinals.
bracket or do they reseed? I don't even know what they do anymore.
They will play the worst.
They will play the-
remaining
so
seed.
Correct. reseed.
So if Houston if Tennessee wins, they'll play the Titans, and then if not, they'll play anybody except for New England.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if New England wins, then they're going to play the winner of the other game.
Right.
So next week, Ravens, Terps, Caps, everything will be back in play, everybody.
That's correct. And depending on what the Redskins do, we'll probably
Oh, yeah,
have some more
yeah,
nuggets
yeah,
there as well.
Fired by then. He's going to resign in 48 hours.
So
Smart.
thank you for listening to episode 33 of Wings, Beers, and Tears. Please tune in next week. Go ahead and subscribe on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at Wings, Beers, Tears. And we will check you guys next week.
All right.
Peace. Happy
Peace
New Year,
out.
everybody.
Peace.